Do you know what? I don't need to do another Jimny video because I think I covered it fairly comprehensively in that one on the blue car about 6 months ago, maybe a bit longer. In that time, my opinion of the Jimny really hasn't changed. I still absolutely love them. So as I've had to drive one for the last 2 days for reasons of work, I thought it'd be rather a shame not to put one back on the channel again, just to give you a little bit of an update of what I still think is good and what I still think is bad. So I'm going to drive it and you're going to watch, hopefully. Thank you. So I've taken it somewhere it should have gone in the first place, off-road. So, dropping this thing from 2-wheel high to 4-wheel high. I could go to 4-wheel low, but frankly for this hill, I don't think I need it. In my first video I said I don't need to test the Jimny off-road because everyone knows how good they are. One day I will take one into some proper axle deep mud just to prove how great they are. I don't need to, but it's my own YouTube channel. If I can't do stuff for fun, then what's the point of having one? But this is about a 1 in 3 hill, and it's loose gravel and shale and stuff like that, and big dips and potholes. And honestly, the Jimny takes it like driving down a flat asphalt hill. It couldn't be easier. This is literally no challenge for the car at all. And because it's such a small size, it can get down this small little path absolutely no problem at all. The branches aren't even whacking the roof. The axle articulation is brilliant. There's not a pothole or a ridge or a gully down here that can stop this car. And it just ticks over, up the hill, happy as you like. Now coming down again, I tried hill descent control. I first tried this on a Freelander back in about 2002, and it's a very, very strange experience lifting your feet off all the pedals and letting the car go down at 6 miles an hour. The traction control light is going mental there. The car uses a combination of ABS and engine braking, and it's a weird experience. The car just sits at 6 miles an hour and cruises down the hill, taking everything in stride.
In half a mile, turn right onto the green.
Well, I'm driving a Suzuki Jimny again. I haven't been in one of these for nearly a year, I think it must be. No, surely can't be that long.
Save 5 minutes via Waltham Way. In half a mile, turn right onto the green.
As you can probably hear, this car's got CarPlay in it, which is superb. I'd not had CarPlay in my daily car since, I don't know, nearly a year ago now actually. And I'm quite enjoying it, using the Apple Maps rather than the ancient Mercedes maps with only 5 digits in the postcode. It's a bit of a revelation, I'll be honest. And it's finding its way around traffic. Although this morning I did spend my first 2 hours of my time in this car were spent in a static traffic jam because they shut the M25, and there's not a lot Apple Maps could do about that. Unfortunately. But yeah, no, sadly I haven't won the lottery. My numbers haven't come up and I haven't been able to buy myself a Jimny, which would be lovely because I really would quite like one of these. I've no practical use for one, I just think they're very cool. But after I reviewed one a while back, I'm now doing some work which involves driving one for a couple of days, so I thought I'd have a bit of an update into what do I think of the Suzuki Jimny in everyday life, using it as a car for a couple of days. Well, it both is and isn't a city car, because right now I'm in Enfield, which is kind of, you know, almost London really, certainly in terms of traffic it's almost London. And the 5-speed manual is endearingly clunky. In a car like this, which is all very much retro styled and has a retro feel about it, the slightly notchy 5-speed manual is actually, feels like part of the character of it, but it's an easy thing to use. The clutch isn't too heavy when you're in sort of stop-start traffic, and the gear stick is quite long, so it's up by where your hand is, so it's not too much of a reach, and you shouldn't rest your hand on a gear shift when you're in traffic, but when you're up and down through 1212, it kind of is in the right place for it. It's the kind of traffic I'm in today where you could arguably say an automatic would be better, and I'd be struggling to find a good argument to say a manual wins, because this is just aggro filled. Thanks, bus.
Turn right onto the green.
Yeah, this isn't as easy as an automatic would be. But because the car is so small, it is really easy to find its way through gaps in traffic. When, you know, that
In half a mile, turn left onto College Gardens.
that Uber Prius hasn't quite pulled over all the way into the middle of the road to make a right-hand turn, you can still get past on the left. It's got enough of an initial burst of speed and picks up really easily when you're cutting away from a set of traffic lights and you've got to go for that gap. So in that respect, it's been quite a good urban car today. I would say that you wouldn't have to worry too much about the bodywork, because you've got the big black plastic arches and bumpers and things, but this isn't my car, so I'm being extremely careful with it, obviously. The steering is still very low geared. Obviously nothing's mechanically or physically changed since I drove one before. In fact, there's still a waiting list for these things, and it's understandable why, because they are still excellent vehicles. But yeah, so the brakes are still sharp, the steering is still quite light and lots of turns lock to lock, which is its one maybe downfall in terms of city driving, when maybe fewer turns lock to lock might be an easier thing to do. And it's been quite economical today as well. It's been, I think I've done about 60 miles, and it's been a mixture of motorway, fast motorway, static queuing motorway, and urban congested town, and it's still averaging 39.5 mpg. Before I hit the town driving, it was averaging 42 and a bit, 42.2 I think it said, which is really good. I mean, that's kind of what a diesel car would get, really. Obviously I'm running in two-wheel drive high rather than four-wheel drive, which is making it a bit more economical, but
Turn left onto College Gardens, then turn right.
if it were to snow all of a sudden, I would have the advantage over everyone else in their Astras and Fiestas.
Turn right onto College Gardens. In a quarter of a mile.
Visibility out of this thing is good. The pillars are either very, very thick A-pillars. Oh yeah, the accident avoidance is slightly paranoid. As you sort of weave in and out of parked cars, it does think you're going to crash into all of them.
Turn left onto Mansfield Hill, then bear right onto Waltham Way.
Not even close to any of them. As I was saying, the A-pillars are quite thick on this car. Obviously they have to be on all modern cars for crash structure, but because they're so upright, they don't really get in your vision too badly.
Bear right onto Waltham Way.
So yeah, with these big windows that come behind your shoulder and the not too intrusive A-pillars, even though you've got a bit of a letterbox windscreen, it's actually really easy to see out of this car. Now, daily use thing which has kind of struck me today is the storage. I wasn't really paying attention to it when I reviewed it last time. There's a little tray area here under the grab bar which you can put odds and sods in, but it's not really very practical. It's got no kind of a T-shelf, I'll tell you that now. The glove box is actually quite big, but this car's got the factory handbook in it, so that's mostly taken up by that. I'd leave that behind if I was obviously driving it every day. The little tray down here is just big enough for a pair of glasses, but not really much else. And the door pockets are actually quite thin. I can only just like squeeze a notebook. My wallet won't fit in there, which is a little bit annoying. But having said that, you've got a couple of really cool cubbies down here. You've got one that's just the right size for an iPhone to tip into, so that can live in there, kind of almost facing you. And you've got two cup holders behind the handbrake. They're a little bit hard to reach, but they are really big. I mean, this is my Furious Driving coffee cup. That's quite a big mug there. And I've got a teacup as well. I'm practical. This is a practical car for practical people. This actually really suits me well, because I've got a flask of hot water, and in between jobs during the day, I'll brew up another cup of tea or a coffee, depending what I fancy, and I've got a thermos cup for each one. and these are both big thermoses, and they will fit happily side by side down there. One question that did crop up a few times in comments on my proper full review of this car was, what's it like on the motorway? Because, you know, this is a big step up from the previous generations of the Jimny, which was, you know, really out of its depth on a fast road. And, well, I can answer that by the fact I'm doing 70 miles an hour on the M25 right now, and I'm assuming you can hear me relatively well, because at 70 the car is doing 3,500 RPM, and the engine, well, it sounds like it's going fast, because, you know, that 6th gear would be lovely at the moment to just calm it down a tad. It's not overly intrusive, and the car is nice and stable. It's clearly got more go in it, and it could be going faster if I wanted to. I'm not redlining it by a long way. With 3,500 RPM, I could be pushing this a lot harder if I was allowed to. In terms of being a fast motorway mile muncher, the diminutive, I've run out of alliterations, damn it. The diminutive, the smallest, no, it's not an SUV, it's a 4x4, it's a proper off-roader. I won't have this thing called an SUV. So yes, to answer all those questions, yeah, it's fine, it's actually really quite good. The only thing that really does differentiate it from a regular car, but puts it in the ballpark of most other high-sided vehicles, is that if you are on like a bridge or something and there's a side wind, you do feel it gusting more than you would in a regular car. But that goes with any tall, like, four-wheel drive or that kind of vehicle. And this is a great all-rounder. I mean, if you're not trying to do, you know, stratospheric speeds on the motorway and you're happy to cruise at 70, this thing is still brilliant. It's so fun around town, and every time you take it down a country lane or anywhere like that, it just puts a massive grin on your face. And if there's any opportunity to sort of nip into, I don't know, a byway open to traffic, as they are called, or any other kind of off-road situation where you can make an excuse to just bounce the thing over a curb onto some mud, you will, and you'll be grinning like an idiot. Well, now I'm rather sad because I've got to give the Jimny back. I'm just driving to the station to collect the driver who's going to take it away from me and leave me Jimnyless yet again. So if Suzuki would like to leave me on a long-term loan, I'll be very happy indeed to give them a full and frank appraisal of exactly how good a Jimny really, really is, weekly. I don't mean weekly, I mean like every week. But yeah, I'm sure you'd all get bored of it very quickly. But thank you for watching. I hope you've enjoyed a little extra taste of Jimnyness, because you all need a bit more Jimny in your life.